Okay, today's video we're going to talk about display lost is rank. What this is and why it determines why you will or how much you'll be profitable with your Google Display Network ads itself. All right. If you want to add discovery ads to this, you technically could add discovery ads to this as well, and YouTube ads. So with this, to let you know right out the gate what this metric is, display loss rank is the percentage of times that you show up out of 100. For a certain placement or audience that you are trying to target, or should I say with the settings of your display or whatever campaign you're running that's not search engine related, that you'll show up. So if you're trying to target one certain website, let's say with some banner ads, you could, whether you show up 100% of the time or 1% of the time, depends on certain things I'm going to go over here in a moment, but that number is what essentially your display loss rank is. The other thing to mention would be, like, let's say you're trying to target a customer list that you have. You've uploaded your customer list to Google. Whether you show up for every customer who goes to a web page that runs Google AdSense, which means that Google Ad Display Network ads can get in front of that person in that case. Whether you show up in every instance an ad could show up for that customer on that customer list. Whether you show up 100% of the time in places for your customers that are in front of an ad spot, or 1% of the time, that is also what display loss rank actually is. Now, with that said, why this determines if you will be profitable or not, to sum it up into one thing, it's click-through rate on your ads, more than anything else, dictate how many times you show up for an audience or placement, as well as what you're going to pay for a click. Okay? Yes, you're paying for individual clicks on Google Display Network, but the higher your click-through rate is, the lower your cost per click. This is similar how if you're familiar with running Facebook ads, what the ad relevance score is that you have. So, because relevancy of the ads affects click-through rates, and click-through rates indicates the relevancy, and high click-through rates on Facebook mean low cost per click. If you can get your click-through rates on your Google Display Network ads to like a 1% or even a little higher, your cost per click many times will only be like 10, 20 cents a click. Versus if you get the industry standard click-through rate on the display network ad, when we're talking about banner ads, not like the responsive display ads. Typical banner ad on Google Display Network is going to get a 0.025% click-through rate. So if you're getting, and then the average cost per click on the Google Display Network is about 75 cents a click. So therefore, if you can get your click-through rate from the 0.025 to a 1% range, now you can pay 15 cents for a click versus 75 cents. And that's all it takes to, many times, then make your ads 4 times as profitable by getting that click-through rate up. And there's several ways to get the click-through rate up. It's not just about making a better ad necessarily. So, but with that said, going back to display lost is rank, what determines if you show 100% of the time for your website you're trying to show up, or for a certain audience you're trying to show up in front of, comes down to how well you perform compared to who wants the same ad spots on certain websites that you may be targeting, if you're targeting certain placements, or in front of the same people on this audience list that you have that you want to get in front of. Naturally, if somebody is willing to pay a lot more per click, they could have an ad that's not as good as yours and still show up a lot more than you're showing up for that audience or on that website or ad spot on a website that you want to show up on. Naturally, they'll only be able to pay so much before their ads are at a negative ROI, which means really what you're trying to do is be able to, if you can, pay more for a click in terms of what you're getting out of a customer, or get your click-through rate up high enough where your cost per click is going to come down so that you're able to pay more per impression than that competitor is, so that your display loss dis rank goes up to basically as close to 100% as you can get. Because if a website and your ad shown on a certain website is profitable, of course you want your display loss rank is to be 100%, because you're going to end up getting making the most money out of that you could possibly make, if you will. So with that said, your click-through rate and your conversion rate, for the most part, is what determines your display loss dis rank and whether you show up 100% of the time for your audience or 0% of the time. And to be clear here, I know I said just a second ago you want your display loss dis rank to be 100%. It's actually vice versa. You actually want that to be as close to 0% as you can, or would get, or can get as well. Sorry for misspeaking there for a minute. So in other words, if a 0% display loss dis rank means you are showing up the most you can show up for a certain audience or placement on a certain website that you could possibly show up. Whether you get the 0% display loss dis rank or 100% comes down to the click-through rate and the conversion rate. It's very similar to how search ads work on Google.com itself. That is, Google wants to display relevant ads for their users so that people like to and get used to clicking on ads in the future, so it builds in long-term usage of their ad product, okay? If you get your click-through rate up, they know your ad's relevant for whom you're trying to target. That user gets a good experience in that case, they're more likely to click on ads in the future. Conversion rate, if that's high, it's the same thing. Users got what they wanted by clicking on that ad, get a good experience, have a, walk away from that ad clicking experience with a good taste in their mouth, more likely than now. They're more likely than now to click on an ad in the future again. So if you do these two things click-through rate is high, conversion rate is high, they naturally want you to show up as much as possible for who you're showing up for, because you're doing ultimately a good job pleasing their users. Therefore, it's going to take less also money per click to show up 100% of the time for the audience that you want to show up for than it would have otherwise. Okay? Naturally, there's an element to this that's the more you're willing to pay per click, the more closer to 100% of the time you're going to show that that there is, or if you will, that you will get. The other part of the equation is how well you perform in terms of relevancy, i.e. click-through rate on your ads, and also conversion rate on the ads as well. Or at least compared to the people that are advertising or trying to get in front of the same exact people you are. If they can outbid you, but they can only bid so much. If they can outbid you though, they can show up more often than you are in front of the people you want to get in front of. Even if they bid higher, if your click-through rate and conversion rate is much, much higher than them, it won't matter that they bid higher, because you're still going to show up a higher percentage of the time than them, because Google's going to prefer to show you, and it's going to give you a discount on the cost per click necessary to show up more than them, if that makes sense. So really, at the end of the day, you want to do everything you can to get more out of a customer so you can pay more for a click. And then on the other end of the equation, you want to get your click-through rate and your conversion rate as high as you can, because your cost per click is going to come down to get the same amount of showings in front of your audience or placement or website you want to show up on, the better those two metrics are. On Google, click-through rate and conversion rate is about equally weighted in terms of how much of an effect it has on your click-through rate. On the display network, however, non-search engine ads, about 80% of the equation is down to the click-through rate. Why? Because conversion rates on banner ad traffic is very low. So Google doesn't really know how well you convert compared to your competition, because they just normally don't convert that well. So they more so, as we verified, lean on the click-through rate as an indicator of good, providing a good experience to their users, and then whether or not they should reward you with a lower cost per click in that case. Really what you're doing with Google is you're paying per impression. You're X number of costs per time your ad shows. If you can get a higher click-through rate, you're actually just getting more clicks for the same impressions. But they also there is also an element of them artificially lowering your cost per click on top of that if you have a very good click-through rate, because it provides a good experience for their users as well. So you actually pay less per click two different ways there. Or should I say what it is required to pay per click to get out in front of your competitors that are trying to show up for the same people on a regular basis. Now, what can you do to get the click-through rate to be higher than what you have right now? So you now have your display lost is rank close to as 0% as you can. Therefore, you're showing up almost every single time in front of the people that you know are profitable as you can. And that is, there's three main options you have here. You can have a better ad, which is the obvious thing. How do we make a better banner ad or better responsive display ad if that's what you're doing, so that more people click through our ad, because obviously higher click-through rates mean lower cost per click every time for the reasons I already mentioned. Second way, or second option though you have to get your click-through rate up is to sub-segment. That is, let's say you're targeting a certain website that's really profitable, and you know through your placements that a certain website's profitable, and you want to make sure your display loss rank is very low for that website because it converts very well. Okay. In that situation, you can take that placement and then set up a secondary campaign that just targets that placement by itself, and then within that have different ad groups, of which one ad group targets that placement and certain keywords, and another ad group targets that same placement and other keywords. And what that'll do is allow you on that website that converts well to have a different ad or message on your ad show up for people that are on that one section of the website, and a different message that shows up for people that are on a different section of that website. And then because you know what section of the website they're on, you can be even more relevant for that user in that case. Obviously, in the scenario that I just laid out there, the website's going to have a lot of traffic on it in order for that to be kind of worth it at the end of the day, or a lot of sales are coming from there. But respectively, if you know that website, let's say there's a forum on one part of the website that you advertise on, and then there's another part that just has a blog on it, okay? You could target that website under placements and then have a secondary targeting option, which basically works like a filter, where the way that it functions is if you target keywords and a placement, essentially it's going to say, unless you're on a page about these keywords on this particular website, the ad won't show up. So you could have the word blog as a single keyword you're targeting in a single ad group, along with the website domain itself as a placement, and then therefore your ad will only show up on the blog part of the website, and do the same thing with the word forum in terms of the keywords you're targeting in the other ad group that also targets that same domain in the placements, so that you can have a pre-designated ad that shows up just for people while they're on the forum, and another ad that shows up, it's special just for the people that are on the blog part of the website. And you just find out how the users behave differently. If you're selling performance auto parts to people that are on an automotive website, people that are on the forum, you may find people that are on the forum, you could be deliberate about this. We've done this type of thing before, where you could say, hey, XYZ forum users, this was the best voted product in the top thread of 2023, and then drive them to a product page on your site, that, or should I say specialized page on your site if you want to get even the best results out of this, that talks about that thread, and then also starts to talk about the product, and then links to your product page on your site. That's a very great way to monetize or maximize the sales out of a certain website if you find a certain website crushes it like that for you. Versus on people that show up on the blog, you could also say, assuming there was a blog post about your product at a certain point, you could say, read the blog post about this item, then send them to the blog post instead of sending them to your website to get a higher click-through rate. And that would be another way to get more click-through out of the people that hit the blog portion of the site. Or you could just figure out, do split testing. What's the language on the ad that works better for the blog part of the website or blog readers versus the forum users? And just say nothing about the website itself in question, but just use different verbiage. Increases horsepower. Maybe that works better to get a higher click-through rate for blog readers versus more torque on people that have visited the forum part of your website, or of that website that you want to advertise on and get more out of. So that's a scenario, a more common scenario of how to get more click-through rate out of an ad, specifically through sub-segmentation. So just by being more relevant to the users you're trying to get in front of. And then of course your third option is you can do both, okay? So you can have a better ad and you can sub-segment. So instead, with the scenario that I gave, if you're targeting those blog users, instead of just saying, see this blog post on xyz.com that talks about the new product that's hot in 2023, you could, once you find that out, then you could actually test the messaging that you have. Find the new cool product, saying the word cool versus check out the product on the ad and see which gets a higher click-through rate. So just by being more relevant, so in other words, what you're doing, it's still either sub-segmenting or you're doing ad testing. In this case, you're sub-segmenting, but then once you've sub-segmented, then you work on ad testing again, once you've sub-segmented. You could go back and forth between sub-segmenting your traffic source and doing ad testing once you've sub-segmented, and you can go as far with this as you want. The more you sub-segment, the more you optimize the ad copy for each sub-segment of the traffic that you have, the more your click-through rate's going to get. The problem is, once you sub-segment so much, the amount of people that you have left to target is probably so small you can't do split testing anymore. So you need to have an audience of like at least 1,000 people to do any kind of split testing, if you will. So there's a point where you can't sub-segment anymore and get any more out of it. But very, very few people are doing any kind of sub-segmenting like I just mentioned. And very few people even do ad testing. They set an ad they think is good enough and they don't do any testing of the ad to get a higher click-through rate so they can get favored by Google and have the display lost as rank being as low as possible so they can maximize the placements that they're finding that work the best. If you run display ads and they're working great, there's 10% of the placements you're targeting that produce most of the sales. Why wouldn't you go ahead and do the exercise that I mentioned where you're trying to get more out of that particular website? What most people try to do is they try to run that campaign as a whole harder, and you're going to hit a roadblock because 90% of the campaign really doesn't produce shit, 10% does. Much better off eliminating the 90% and then trying to sub-segment the 10% to get more click-through rate out of that. That's the real way to scale a display campaign, not the other end of the spectrum. Or doing what I mentioned and then ask yourself why the website that's in the 10% highest converters, that type of website that's in the 10%, why it converts well, and then find other websites that you research on the web of different similar websites like it, and then manually target other websites that are like the ones that convert well. So instead of just letting Google, get you automated placement across the web, you find other websites that are like it, and then try to manually test running your ads on those to scale that way. There's a lot of websites you'll find that don't have AdSense, which means you can't get on those websites with display network ads. So you just reach out to that website owner directly and say, hey, I would like to buy a banner ad on your website. And that's another way to scale. So anyway, but you get the general gist of what I'm trying to say in terms of how to get the display losses rank low as possible, so you get the most out of the profitable placements that that you have, if you will, or the profitable audiences that you have going for your display campaign that you're running for your brand today. So in a nutshell, that's what display loss rank is. How it's relevant, though, more so in terms of how much money you can and will make from any kind of display advertising that you're trying to run for your brand. So with that said, I'll wrap it up with that, though. If you have any questions about anything I covered here today, leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel within a couple days' time. You can ask me any unrelated question you'd like to ask. I'd be more than happy to try to answer it for you as a way of just giving back for you, helping our channel grow and so forth. So, and usually within 24 hours, I'll get you an answer on any unrelated question you have using my 15 years of experience in building ads and so forth to try to help you out best I can. As a side, if you are looking for the best information, though, on YouTube on how to really make money with ads, this is the channel you want to subscribe to. So you should darn well subscribe to it. given it's coming from somebody who just manages ads all day long and just does the strategy. Therefore, it's the most relevant information you can find. Most of the other crap on YouTube you see, it's all by professional YouTubers who don't manage anything, or they're selling courses. It's just BS information. Therefore, this is the channel you actually want to pay attention to if you want to really make money with your ads. Furthermore, if you like the channel, there's excellent information from myself on my blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog, which I have diagrams and infographics, everything else there that tells you how to make money as well with your ads. If you like the channel, you'll love my blog. It's a lot more visual and has a lot of extra great information on it as well that you can learn a lot from. I also, by the way, have a column over at entrepreneur.com. If you like my work, you can follow me there as well. With all that said, run an ad agency, and we provide guaranteed results for our clients that we work with. That is, if you want to see if we can get you results on your campaigns on autopilot, with myself working and doing the strategy on your own campaigns, you can reach out to me at guaranteeppc.com. I'll give you a free analysis on what you have. And if we do work together, we will not charge you a fee unless we can get you a certain amount of increase in profitability with your ads right up front. That's our signature offer. The only catch is we got to know we can get great results with your campaigns up front. But if you want to see if it's possible to work together and how much results I can get you on top of what you're getting today, feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to give you a free analysis and talk to you about what you're doing. Even if you're not looking to work with somebody like myself or an ad agency, which I understand a lot of people don't, they want to manage their own ads. If we've gotten results in your industry already, I've worked in over 100 different niche markets, and we are not in your specific geographic market operating now or in the past, you can simply use everything we developed for your market and just dump it into your account. Ads, landing pages, all of it, and get the same results we're getting with none of the work. We sell these templates for a one-time fee and can tell you what results you would get with our templates that we've probably developed over years to get to the results we are getting in your market already, and get it basically overnight implanted into your account. We can charge a one-time fee for that. So it would be silly not to take advantage of that if we've already gotten the results in your market. And a lot of times we've spent millions of dollars in ad spend to find out what works in your market, of which you get it for a small one-time fee. We've got people using these templates to start other side businesses, selling leads, getting into e-commerce, with product they can easily import if they weren't in e-commerce and wanted to get into it. It's like started and operating a business on easy mode, starting with ad templates that work for that market. But if you're interested in that, you can definitely reach out as well to myself at guaranteeppc.com. I'll tell you what results we've got in your market, what we have available there as well. We'll wrap it up with that. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in my next video where we have another great strategy for you then. See you later.